Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue 19. This is book 1 of the Return to New York saga. And I have to say, as a kid who grew up with the Ninja Turtle Archie comics, being able to finally go back and find the original Ninja Turtle comics in their black and white iterations is something special for me. That's not to say that I wish I could go back and get the first 10 issues at a decent price. I look at them now and I go, ha 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 ha, I got bills to pay, man. But I found this series okay on Amazon, where I found these at. And I just mean, look at how gorgeous this artwork is. So beautiful. And it really, I love how the suspense automatically kicks up. Speaking of which, we will go over who did this book at the end, because they put the credits at the end. But it starts off with Raph in the sewer, looking really hurt, and we just like this bloop, bloop. And like I just kind of start seeing this newspaper showing the date that's the 23rd. And then as it continues, it shows the 19th, which segues us, I can talk, I promise, to when the Turtles were at Casey's farm. I'm trying to get the Return of the Shredder arc, which I think started in issue 10. And if you guys don't have the comics, the arc should essentially be familiar with you for those of us that saw the original movie back in the day, where Raph got his ass kicked, April's secondhand shot from her father set on fire, and they fled to Casey's farmhouse because they had to lick their wounds. And you just see Raph here. I can't stand it anymore. Silence. I said I can't stand it anymore. Silence. And then Raph, are you deaf? This place is driving me crazy, understand? Here we go again. Now look, Raph. We all know. You look. It's been a year, man, a whole friggin' year, and we're still stuck here. The Shredder came back and kicked our butts, and life's good here. It's given us time to heal, to accept what's happened. Leo's needed this time too. We're not the guardians of society, Raph. We never were. Oh, bull, listen to you guys. I can't believe what I'm hearing. We've had more than enough time to, what'd you call it, heal. Leo's lost it. He's scared. He can no longer lead us. Which I love right here, this piece. What? I like the half-shadowed Leonardo. Just really sets the mood of what everybody's feeling in this these scenes. And of course, you know, the brothers quarrel. What's your problem, Ralph? You heard me. You're the problem, Leo. This sucks. I hate feeling this way. You know we have to go back. We're dying here, rotting from the inside out, and it's your fault. We wait, and yet we do nothing. If you won't, I will. And this is why I think I've always enjoyed Leonardo and Raphael the most, because they, both in their own capacities, can lead. But one's the cool, collected cucumber, and the other is the hothead that, because of that, stumbles over himself. And that's why I think I like both of them so much. But I like how Leo says it's not time yet. I'll say when, and then we go as a team. Now, from what I understand, this series, this particular run here, started just when the Turtle Mania craze hit the world back in the 90s. If you guys weren't alive then, oh my God. It was kind of like the same thing with the 90s X-Men. It was a time to be alive. Like growing up in Roswell, as I was talking about at the beginning of this, at the time it was a village. It's grown since then, but we used to be called, I think it used to say the village of Roswell. And it was small, so small. And yet we had people dressed up as turtles and came to the mall. And I remember as a kid, when I say kid, I mean like kindergarten, first grade, I didn't care that it looked off. I was all about it. And I think I followed them all over the mall. And that was kind of how it was all over the world. We loved the Turtles. And I still do. I mean, the corniness aside, I still love him. Raphael still will always, till the end of days, will probably always be my favorite. Ninja Turtle. And then Leo's kind of a hard second, and then Don because I like electronics, and then Mikey because he's silly. But that's kind of always been my order of the Turtles. And the fight between these two, because Leo's trying to say, we'll go when I say we're ready, because he's trying to teach Raph patience, because he always goes off half-cocked. Even though sometimes he does get a win, he usually ends up getting himself hurt or others hurt in the process, and he ends up beating himself up. But these pages, oh my God, I mean, you can see the Frank Miller influence, that kind of boxy look, like if you remember Daredevil and whatnot, it has that Frank Miller look to it, and just adds to it. The black and white too, like the way that it's snowing, the way they're fighting, this kind of reminds me of Kirk's, I mean, think of this has been decades before, but this in a sense kind of reminds me of Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead. Now, Raph, letting his temper get to him, ends up hurting his brother, and he leaves and returns to New York alone. We kind of go back to where the beginning of the book started, and damn, this was 1989, really before digital art. Someone had to sit there, pencil, ink, traditional ways, and do all that stone work, shadow work, line work. That is fracking impressive. Stuff like this, I always, that's what inspired me to really want to start drawing when I was a kid, is seeing comics like this. And I love how Raph, even though he knows he's outnumbered, he's going to go through these freaking Foot Clan members. And look at this. More action. And it's so good. It's so good. That's all I can say. And look at how they show, excuse me, the damn cough will not go away. He shows without telling, or show don't tell is the thing. We don't need 600 dialogue balloons for this. We just get a couple here, there, but we see what's happening and how Raph is just going headlong, how he's able to count how many foot soldiers there are, way he just clanks his size together and just goes for it full berserker style. And I think after the Ninja Turtles, when I started getting into the X-Men, I think that's why I really started to like Wolverine and Cyclops, because they kind of had that same dynamic relationship. Because, you know, Wolverine being the hothead, Cyclops having to bear the responsibility and safety of others. But yeah, this book starts out so great. And because their brothers love one another, of course they're going to come help Raph. And as things go on, God, look at that, guys. That is some delicious artwork right there with the Triceraton. What's his name? Zog? It's like, what the hell's going to happen here? And I'm excited because I've never read these before. So my reactions are just as, you know, if you guys have never read these either. And I wish to a degree that my parents would have gotten these comics for me back in the day, but I don't think they were available where I was. It was the Archie comic ones. Now, real quick, so many. It's right here. Return to Book 1, New York. Story, Eastman and Peter Laird. Layouts, Kevin Eastman. Pencils, Jim Lawson. Inks, Peter Laird, and letters was Steve Lavigne. And what I was trying to get at there for a second, but I had a blonde moment, talking about the Turtle Mania, is Eastman and Laird didn't really at this point get a chance to sit down together and start scripting out Turtle stories so there for a while, from book 10 or 11 up to 18, the Turtles were stuck at this farmhouse, and they had to figure out a way to try to bring the Turtles back to New York to kind of, coincide with what was happening in the cartoons, the action figure line, and the Archie comics. And so they made the Return to New York art to try to bring the mainstream, or the original comic, back to kind of continuity with everything else that they were doing. Now, with that said, though, there's a little forward here in the back. I'm not going to read it. I'll pause it to where you guys can look at it at your convenience once I can find it again. Bear with me for a sec. So I'll leave it here. Go ahead and pause that and read it at your convenience. But what I like is how Kevin Eastman, and I think Laird said something in here too, where they're saying that they didn't really want the everything to feel separate to a degree. Like he said, if the people like the zaniness of the cartoon, cool. If and then we also want to stay true to the grittiness of the original comic book. So we want to make sure we stay true in each medium that we do, but we also want to make sure that, if younger generations want to read the grittier stuff and the older generation wants to get into the zany stuff, that there's some form of consistency. And I like that the way that it was written, it's like he didn't feel like he was segregating anybody. He accepted both worlds of fans and wanted them to enjoy both mediums. And I can appreciate that. That's awesome. And also, I wanted to go over this because for the longest time before I even knew this existed, this stuff here, this was my turtle world. This was all that I knew. So as I got older and realized that this was what the turtles really were, this is the turtles that I want to know. So if you guys have enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you can pick up a copy of this in the whole saga or in a collected trade. Speaking of which, I'm trying to, because there's 3 parts of the saga that we'll be going over. But apparently, I think it was 2010, they did a book 1.5, which I think is supposed to fill a gap between this and book 2. And it was part of the Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I was like, oh, I'll go see how much it is. And I looked and I went, yeah, I'm not paying $400 for that. So hopefully one of these days I can find an inexpensive copy of book 1.5. But at least for the time being, we can go over all 3 issues of the original saga. So if you all have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little cowabunga bell next to subscribe, that is where we continue to upload content. You guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.